class today, and in this class I will be showing you two of my games recently played on chess.com. I mostly play on chess.com, a lot of the tournaments, the Title Tuesday, the Thursday special event, so I get to play some of the very top players in those events. So in the first game I'm playing against Arjun Erigaisi, one of the top players in the world, top 10. I believe it was like top 4 also a few months ago. So I'm white in this game against Arjun. So I open up with d4. He played knight f6, c4, g6. Do we know the name of the opening at the moment? Not yet, right? Because there could be two different openings at the moment here. If you play after knight c3, if you play d5, this would be the Grunfeld defense. So if he plays bishop g7, that's what my opponent did. That is the King's Indian defense. So at the moment, we don't know the opening yet. It could be Grunfeld or the King's Indian defense. Now I play knight f3, castles. And now I play my favorite system, bishop g5. This is called the Smyslov-Petrosyan system, but I've been playing it very consistently for the past about 30 years now. So a lot of games against a lot of top opponents. Here's an example for you, Arjun. So now I play bishop g5. The idea behind this move is develop the bishop and put the pawn on e3. Again, we're putting the pawn on e3, not on e4 in this position, because we would like to restrict that bishop on g7. So this is where we want to put the pawn, on e3. So he plays h6, attacking my bishop. Bishop h4. d6. e3. c5. And now after c5, we're putting pressure on d4. He's trying to put pressure, so I have to react. So I play the move d5 here. And now he played the move e6. This is a very common move, transposing to a Benoni defense type of position.
Was our intention to stop our opponent's knight's ability to go to c6?
Absolutely. And also, absolutely. And also by playing d5, you put your pawn into his territory. That means now your pawn is on d5, is controlling more squares, and you are gaining space. See, he no longer can go knight to 6, as you mentioned. And also now the e6 square is under control. So, yes, and gaining space. So now black doesn't have that many squares for his pieces. So he plays e6. Trying to break the center to achieve some activity. Yeah, so here is actually a very special move you need to play. This is the strongest move in this position. I've played this for many years now. The move is knight d5. The reason this move is very strong, because if he takes ed, which he did, after the capture, the knight has this excellent outpost on c4, which we know in the Benoni type of positions, we always want to put a knight on c4 to attack the pawn on d6. The other option this move is accomplishing, if he tries to go after the bishop with g5, we play bishop g3. And now if you play knight h5, what's going to happen? Look at the queen now. The queen will take the knight and win the piece. So this is a common idea for black to try to win the bishop. Let's say, example, I show you if you play a standard move, then most people will play like this. Then he plays here, and after this move, he's going to achieve the goal of winning your bishop. And after achieving that goal, black is going to be comfortable. Okay? So that's why I play the move knight d2 here. It's the strongest move. He took, I take back. And now he plays knight a6. Okay? Activating the knight. And now he also wants to go knight c7. Yes?
Would it be worth it to trade our bishop for his knight in considerations on
You could take on a6 here, but you're giving a bishop. And you know, bishops are worth a little bit more in the opening, right? And then there is a potential of a5 now. And then look at that bishop coming in on a6, right? And suddenly look at this. There could be some problems on that diagonal, okay? There could be some problems, okay? So that's why I didn't want to do that. I normally don't take on a6. In very rare occasions, I've taken on a6. But most of the time, I just develop my pieces. Bishop e2, now he goes here. Knight c7 now. Is he threatening anything? You always have to follow opponent's moves to see if he's threatening anything. Aha, but he can get rid of the pin, right? Let's just an example. Castle, look at this. He attacks the bishop, moves the bishop back, and now he takes my pawn. I probably have enough counterplay here, but again, I don't think I have much advantage. Yeah, I will win the d6 pawn back, but black is very active now. So that's why I don't want him to take on d5. I want to try to keep that pawn, okay? I want to keep that pawn because that pawn on d5 is a very strong pawn and it's blockading black's pieces. That's what I want you to do, to keep that pawn and blockade it, okay? So what is the correct move? Yes?
E4, bishop c4.
Huh?
E4, bishop c4.
Okay, well, which one you would play? One, you can choose one move, right? During the game, we cannot choose two. We have to choose one.
What move would be...
What's the best move here? Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. The move is absolutely e4, okay? Protecting, okay? Protecting the pawn. Now, he plays rook e8, putting pressure on e4. Again, don't pay attention to this marks so much, because when you're playing like a blitz game, you're not going to play all the computer moves. And in fact, you do not need to play like a computer, you know? As long as you play, 80-85% of the time, decent moves, you should be able to win most of your games. Again, blitz games, yeah, if you run through a computer will find all the, absolute best moves. So I would like you to just focus more on the ideas here. So now he plays rook e8. He's putting pressure here, but also at some point he's thinking about playing the move b5. Okay, he's thinking about playing b5 and getting some activities. Okay. So what to do now?
Bishop e5.
That's your bishop. You do not want to lose your bishop. Remember, bishops are bishops, okay? Bishops are strong people. You do not want to lose your bishop. Now, let's pay attention first. What we need to do, guys, you need to understand what is opponent trying to do. Once you understand his idea, his threat, it's easier to stop it. But the first thing is to try to understand the threat. The threat is b5, okay? He wants to play the move b5. I would like you to find a way to prevent that, okay? To prevent that. How can we prevent that here? With a natural move. In the back. Yes? A4. A4, there you go. Excellent move. Controlling that b5 square and not allowing the opponent to play the move b5. Restricting it, yes?
Why did he play b5 before he went with b8?
Well, if you play b5, I have two, right? I have two attackers. When he plays the rook here, he is applying pressure, So that's why. A4, excellent move, preventing it. Now he plays g5, attacking my bishop. I'm forced to play this move. When you're playing blitz, rapid games, when the opponent makes a move like g5, you need to respond right away. You don't need to think, because that's your only move. You're not going to give up your bishop, Now he goes here, rook e7. As you can see, he's uncomfortable. Even though he is one of the top players in the world, but he is a difficult position now. It's very difficult to move. So that's why he chose this move. It looks a bit awkward. Castle, safety of the king. And now he plays knight ce8. His idea to try to somehow go there, regroup, or do something like that. Regroup. And now the question is, black is very, very passive. How can we start the attack? How can we start the attack here? The issue with that move is your e4 pawn will be hanging, because if we play knight c4, we lose one of the defenders, then he takes, and unfortunately we cannot even take back because this guy is defending now. We need to prep. I mean, we can play f3, but I thought I wanted to start my own attack here, you know. I don't want to be too fixed about the knight c4 idea. I want to see if I can try to open up the king side a little bit to do my own attack. It's one of the ideas, yes. Why are we playing f4 though? Explanation. Do you know why are we playing f4? And the rook. You got a rook on f file, right? A rook belongs where? On open file. So that's why we want to play the move f4. And we want to weaken the black's position. He takes. Now, how do we recapture? Yeah, bishop is good because you want to apply pressure. You want to continue applying your pressure here, and you want to continue applying your pressure here, okay? Very important to do that. So now he goes here, knight d7. He's trying to put the knight here, somehow get a blockade, reinforce the position a little bit. Before he puts the knight on e5, what should we do here to challenge him for that? So we don't want to just allow him to do that. How do we challenge that? Knight c4, absolutely. Remember, that was the whole idea of playing the move knight d2, to put the knight on c4 and put pressure here. Things are not looking very good for him now. So he played the move knight e5. Again, yes, I can take this and probably have a very big advantage. But again, I want to try to make sure all my pieces are developed. And that's what you should do as well in your games. Bring all your pieces into the game. Okay? So there are two pieces that are not developed. Can you try to bring that piece into the game? Yes? Queen d2? Absolutely, queen d2. Developing the queen, putting pressure on h6, and also, most importantly, connecting your rooks. Because you want your rooks to be connected. If your rooks are not connected, it's no good. So you want to make sure your rooks are connected. And now you're threatening pressure on h6 as well. At the moment, it's a clear advantage for white. Okay? Large advantage for white. All right? Yes?
Why is Grandmaster Arjun playing slow on his bishop and his rook? I mean,
This?
Yeah.
Believe me, he didn't plan to get this position. Sometimes things don't work out and you have to defend. But again, it's still hard to beat people like this because they defend very well. So even though, look, you're going to see he's going to put up a real big fight. It's even though like technically computer says I'm winning here, yeah? Look at the evaluation. It's like +2. So 2-pawn advantage, right? But again, it's you still have to win it. And they're going to find every single resource to try to save the game. So he takes, I take, and now he plays h5. What else to do? What else to do? The h5 pawn is hanging. He does not want to play the move king h7 because it's going to run into a very awkward bishop d3 e5 idea. Very awkward. So he plays here. Now what do? King h1. Simple move. Put the king away, so no checks, nothing. Rook e5 he goes. He decides to do what's called the positional sacrifice, and hoping that I would take, and then he can establish a strong bishop on e5. And then maybe he can go knight g7, maybe even get the queen active, and try to get out. Okay? No. We don't take. We don't need that rook here. Our bishop is stronger than that rook. So we don't want to take. I know we can take, and we probably have an advantage. But no need to. Now, what is the next move here? We need to activate one of our pieces here and try to apply more pressure. Okay? Apply more pressure on f7. Bishop h6 is a good move, but My concern, my concern is if he takes, and somehow trades queens. This would be my concern, you know, that he trades queens. So I play queen f2. This is an excellent move because now I'm threatening to take, and if he takes back, I take on f7 with a check. See, very subtle move, but improving the pieces. Very important. Improve your pieces. Now he goes here to defend. Bishop comes back here. Bishop is not doing anything there. Why don't we bring the bishop here and say, give us the pawn? And now we are pressuring the h5 pawn. Another idea is to probably bring my rook in, but I like this move, bishop e2, to put pressure on h5. Okay? Yes?
Just like he was willing to sacrifice his rook before, is he willing to sacrifice his rook?
Yeah, I'm not interested, not yet. A little bit later.
For his move, is he going to take e4?
No. If he does that, I'll be happy because I take, and I still have my strong bishop. And now look at this. This is hanging, and this is coming. It's not going to be very good for him here.
Doesn't count as a good sacrifice.
Yeah. Now he goes here. He's trying to get the knight out. The knight is stuck on a back rank, so he's trying to get out. Now he's trying to jump in here. I realize this is the time to capture the rook, to establish the material advantage here. Okay? So I took queen f4. Now we know when you're ahead, you're never afraid to trade, right? And we want to exchange, and if we exchange queens, which happened, and now I want to bring my rook over, I still have an attack. Okay? I still have an attack. Now he goes here, knight g4. I brought my rook over. We repeated it, then I decided, okay, I should put my rook here because now I'm still attacking h5 and I'm also attacking f7. So I'm up a exchange and I'm about to win another pawn. So he decided to play f5 to complicate the matters. I take. Bishop here. And here is an interesting position. I can try to play slow with the move rook e4. Takes, probably take this one and slowly convert this position. White should be winning. But I decided to give up the rook and advance my own pawn. f6. I'm ready to advance my own pawn here. He takes. I take. We get rid of the strong bishop. And now h5 is still hanging. Now he goes bishop g4. Proposing the trade. I take. He takes. And here I play the move knight b5, which is a good move. But the better try here would have been a very simple knight e4, attacking this way. If he tries to defend it this way, look at that fork. Thank you for the rook. Okay? So if he defends here, check. Go here and look at that knight. Look at that knight landing on e6. Knight on e6, check, take, and it's completely over.
If he did knight on b5 and he did rook d7, could you have gone knight c7?
Sorry, knight what?
When he did knight b5, if he did rook d8 and on,
He didn't play rook d8. If he plays rook d8,
then you could go knight
same thing, yeah. And then here. This is what I was hoping for, to play f7 and then bring my knight to e6. And that would have been a game over. He played here. I take knight d6. And now it's a matter of just converting the advantage because we have all the extra pawns, you know. I play h3, make sure I get the luft. Rook f5, I like this move. It's pinning the knight. King h2. This is a great move. And again, I had to make sure that this doesn't work because check I can take. And if the check, I can take like this. Yeah, and my opponent is in a very difficult pin right now. So he goes here. And now I want to simplify into the winning rook endgame, okay? Because, yeah, you can have a winning position, but at some point you have to force the matters to win the game. At some point, you're going to have to force the matters. So what are we supposed to do here to win?
Rook d6.
Knight d6, yes, check. Because now if he goes backwards, we just take this. Thank you very much. He cannot take, we take the rook. So that's over. And if he goes here, push and promote. Okay? So he has to take no choice. Now we take again, count the pawns. I got 5, he got 3. And his pawns are really, really weak. If it was 1 pawn advantage, maybe he can hold. But 2 pawn advantage, no, no chance. He goes here. If he takes here, for example, my simple response is this. Check. Thank you very much. And then I convert with the extra 2 pawns. It will take a little bit of time, but I will convert it, okay? So he goes here. I go there, attack. I take. He attacks, I go there. Rook c1. 2 pawns again. I go here, attack. I push. He goes here. Because if he goes rook a1, I'm going to take this and take this, so he defends this. But now, where does the rook belong, guys? When you have a pass pawn, where does your rook belong? Behind it. Behind it, okay? Absolutely behind it. He goes here, trade, push. He resigned here, but the conversion is pretty straightforward. So you get this position. The next move is you play the move g3. He resigned, but I'll show you the easiest way to win. Take, take. Now you use your h pawn, okay, to push. If he goes there, you just keep pushing the h pawn, like this, this. And now you cannot take the pawn, and you cannot even move the rook because I play a8 queen, so I just go up. And then my task is just to go here, here, and then queen. Yeah, you cannot move this, so all you can do is go back and forth. Attack, I just go back. And then h pawn queen. That's why right around here, guys, when I played this, I think he just resigned here, realizing that there is no more chances for him. There's no way I can actually mess up this position. That's why he threw in the towel here. Okay? So that's how we won this big game against a very strong top player. Yes? Forward? I mean, this didn't happen. This is just I'm showing you he resigned, but if somebody doesn't resign, how you win, you know?
Now we move our king, right?
Uh-huh.
Just once. Yes?
Uh-huh.
Or our king in this game.
King is going up to g7.
Yeah. Instead of moving our king again, why don't we promote?
You can promote, yeah. I was just showing an example. Yeah, you can promote and then checkmate with a rook, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but this way I promote, this way I win the rook, and then I can even get a new queen if I want to. Because the way you do this, you're giving up your both pawns. The way I do it, I keep my a pawn still. Right? It's winning, I agree. It's completely winning. It's just you're going to have to, you know, checkmate with a rook, which is fine. It's not difficult to do. But technically, it's better to go with the king because you promote, he takes, and then you still can get another queen with the a pawn. Small difference, but not a big deal, okay? All right, guys, that was the game against Grandmaster Arjun Erigaisi, okay? In the King's Indian. Once again, I want to just show you the system here. This system is called King's Indian Defense Smyslov-Petrosyan system, okay? Remember that. Smyslov-Petrosyan, but I've been playing it for the past 30 years, okay? Yeah. All right, moving on to the next game. Next game, I'm playing a very strong opponent. Somebody I know well, and he's been here in St. Louis many times. Maxime Vachier-Lagrave, MVL. Okay, so I'm black in this game, and This is one of the chess.com tournaments. He played knight f3. Very strong player, very fast, very tactical. So I played d5. Now he plays c4. What to do now? I have options. I can play c6, I can play d4, I can play many different ways. How would you play in this position? Yes?
We go d4.
You can, but that's going to lead to a very sharp position, you know. And I was trying to avoid playing super sharp with him. I was trying to play more technical game. Yes?
My brother plays that because it makes me a lot. I don't really know. I play French, but right here,
Yeah.
I really like to do like e6.
That's what I did. Yeah, I played 6. e3. Knight f3. b3. Fianchetto. Should be 7, bishop b2 castle. Now he plays d4. David 4 he plays. And now he's fighting for the center. And he's got a good center here. And I decided that I should play the move. I need to get my light square bishop out, right? My light square bishop needs to go out as well. So I cannot go this direction, right? So I played here. He goes here. I go here. Castles, and I play c5. Fighting for the center, okay? Now he goes here, queen e2. Rook c8, rook fd1. Now I need to figure out what to do with my queen, because my queen is not going to be well placed on d8. So I decided to move my queen to b8, okay? And also connect my rook. So I go here, spend a little bit of time, but I put it here, and now I'm getting ready to play the move. Rook fd8 here. Okay, let's say if he plays some slow move, like a neutral move, slow move, I just play the move rook fd8. So he took. I took back with the knight, which is a natural move, attacking the bishop, and now I go rook fd8. Now he takes, and here I want to pause here a little bit and ask you a question here. How you think I should take here? What is the best recapture in this position? Because I have several moves here and several ways that I can recapture here, but what is the best way to do it?
I think I would capture the bishop. I would normally capture the knight, although they have four.
Well, you have a knight recapture, you got a bishop recapture, you got a rook recapture,
And the pawn.
you got a pawn recapture, but probably pawn you don't want to do because it's creating an isolated pawn. And it's also blockading your bishop. Yes?
I really like the rook recapture.
Yeah, rook recapture is probably one of the best because of this reason here. If you capture with the rook, you're also threatening this bishop a6 idea, attacking the queen. And you also have some potential in the future to double up the rooks, to apply some pressure. So he would probably play this, but just come back. You actually want this pawn to move because this pawn suddenly becomes a little bit of a target. Okay? A little bit of a target, a little bit of a liability for him. So I should have taken with the rook. I think rook is good. Capturing with playing bishop a6 is good too here actually. It would be a very nice in-between move. And if he goes here, now it's bad because you take this way, you take the knight. So this would be really bad.
I got a question. So, like, when you capture with the rook and then he attacks the rook, could you do like a rook lift over to?
You can, but I'm afraid this attack is not going to go through very well, and you're going to have a rook that is kind of stuck here. So this is a fun idea to do, but it's a little bit risky to do it here because if attack doesn't go through, then your rook is stuck here. You're not even going to be able to come back into the game. So a little bit of a risky decision here to do that. So I go there. I took with the knight. Now, my opponent played knight c4, activating the knight. And now, his dark square bishop is quite strong on b2 and is pointing out at my king. So I thought if I exchange the dark square bishop, it's going to help me. And that's what I'm trying to do here. Exchange the dark squared bishop. Bishop f6. Now he plays knight e5. Knight d7. Exchanging the knights. The knight is very strong there, and I would like to exchange it. It looks like his best shot would have been this move. And now he's got some ideas like bishop h7 check. So there are some threats here. So white might be a little bit better here. But after he plays here, I realize this knight is very strong. And if I can somehow get rid of this knight, that will really, really help me. So what is the idea here to try to get rid of the knight? Yes?
You could probably move the bishop back and then just the pawn forward.
Yeah, but every time we play f6, it does weaken our light squares. That could be a little bit of an issue. I rather not weaken the pawns if I can. But this knight looks pretty strong on e5. It looks like it's got a pretty strong grip here. So what can we do here to remove this knight from e5? Like we don't want to take it, obviously, because if you take it, he plays bishop e5. We want to trade this with another knight. What is it? Knight where?
Oh, not c7.
d7.
Yeah.
Yes.
What about knight e7 too?
That's what I did. Now he takes here. If it goes knight d7, no problem. I just take back rook d7. So he takes. I cannot take with this guy because it's hanging, so I have to take back with a queen. Now he goes here. I go queen b8 back, and again I'm threatening this. Okay, he could have done this if he really wanted it, but after I take, maybe I can even lock this knight, the rook here. We close the door, yeah? We close the door on the rook. And now we're threatening to play the move knight e7. Knight e7, trapping the rook. Okay? Like if he plays b4, no problem. Just go here and attack the rook. So he took. I took. He played queen c2. Very, very nice move. Attacking on h7. Again, it's a blitz game. You have to pay attention. One quick move, and you have to resign. Check. Check. Queen is gone. See? You always have to watch out for those tricks, So he played knight e7, queen c2. So now this move doesn't leave me with that many options here. So I have to play the move. Which move? G6, yeah. Takes. Knight takes. Knight goes here. Queen b2, and attacking the knight on f6. Attacking on f6, and now I have to figure out what to do. If I move my knight, my dark squares are a little bit weak. But here, you have a very strong move here. And after the next move, block is going to be taken over the game here with a slight advantage. With a slight advantage. How can we do that here, guys? You want to combine the defense with an offense here, okay? Like, if you want to take the knight, he's going to take your knight on f6, and the queen is going to be very strong on f6. You do not want to allow that to happen, okay? You do not. What do we do here to combine that defense with an offense? In the back? Yep. Yeah. Huh? Queen d6. I like that. I like that. Queen d8. Because you defend your knight, and now you're saying, you know what? I want to give you the background checkmate. Okay? And here, actually, here I think he should have maybe played the move knight e1, even though it looks very passive. But I think maybe this could have been played, because he allowed me to take the knight, which turned out to be a long-term issue for him. So I think he should have maybe done this. It's a little bit worse, but playable. So he went here, and of course, when you have the opportunity, what you should do? Take it and damage the structure. Now the structure has been damaged, and this configuration, the knight and a queen versus the weaker king, it's better for black, okay? So remember that. And his light square bishop is kind of blocked, you know, biting everything. Now rook c2. Rooks belong where? On a second rank. That's what we're doing. Now he goes queen c3. Again, rooks belong on a second rank. Now I go king g7. I just want to protect my knight. King f1. I realize he wants to play king e1 here, so I brought my rook back. He goes here. And now white is ready to play the move rook d1 and basically claim that I don't have any advantage, okay? So I have to do something here really quickly, something that is going to tie up his pieces, okay? What should we do here to tie up his pieces here? Think a little bit. Let's give a chance to the other people as well, you know, to see if other people can find the move. How should we tie up the pieces here? Or maybe we can look at the chart to see if anybody. How should we do that, guys? Because he does want to play the move rook d1, and after that it's just going to be an advantage. My advantage is going to be gone, sorry. I'm still fine, but my advantage will disappear, okay? And I would like to keep my advantage. In the second row, yes? Yeah, you. Yeah. Endgame. I don't know. I don't know if the endgame is going to be that much. You know, I don't know if the endgame is going to be that much. Ah, I like that. Now he goes here, and now again, can you pin him? Can you pin him so he cannot go anywhere? Pin it to win it. Because he wants to move the bishop now. But can you do something so you pin him, and that way his piece is going to remain awkward? What can you do to him to keep those pieces awkward? Awkward. Yes. Nice, very nice. Now he's pinned. So he goes ht. I go rook c5. I want him to start pushing the pawns to weaken the position a little bit. He does that. I go here. Check. I want to push him back, but I already knew that he's most likely going to play this. So which he did. I took. He cannot take now with the king. Bishop is saying he takes here. And now, who can find the double attack here? Everybody know what is double attack, right? When you make a move and you're attacking two pieces or pawns at the same time. When you do that, oftentimes that leads to winning material. So what is the idea? What is the idea here? Look at all those weak pawns. Look at those weaknesses. And see if you can spot the move that is going to win a pawn for you. Who has it? Huh? Who has it? Yes? Absolutely, queen d5. Centralizing the queen and attacking this and this. And now, white's position is really bad now. He cannot afford to lose this because then he's going to drop this, guys. So he played here. Thank you very much. He goes here. And now, what should we do here? We want to try to promote, right?
Yeah, but you also
He wants to play b5 though, okay? He does want to play the move b5, so that needs to be stopped.
could you go like A5?
Absolutely. Absolutely, you play the move a5. Yes. Now takes. Pawn takes. Queen c3. Trying to pin. Now, what do we do? What do we do here? Because now the pin is really tough, you know. What should we do? What should be our plan here? Again, we have 1 minute, 20 seconds. He has 1:15. So there's no infinite time. And there's no increment also. So what do we do here? Yes?
I mean, if you're playing with that, you can just still push the pawn.
Yes, you push the pawn. Now he goes here. Yes?
Could you go like knight e4? Or
The knight is pinned. We cannot move the knight. And now our queen is kind of stuck too, because if you move the queen, he will take the pawn. Yes? Absolutely. But now he goes here. He is keeping my queen kind of trapped. And if I move the queen to d5, he's going to take on a3. So here we can try to go to the end game, right? With the move queen b2, which I did. He has to take, otherwise if he moves the queen, you just play a2, a1, and queen. But now he goes here. And he said he's going to play king c3 and pick up my pawn. And if he does that, then he returns home with the king. It's going to be very hard to win. So what to do here while he still doesn't have all that time? Knight d5, maybe bishop b1. And then he will play king to c2. Let's spend a little bit of time here so we can find the winning move here. Huh? The king? How? There you go. There you go. That is the winning plan. Bravo. You want to come in and take that h3 pawn. Bravo. That's what you're trying to do. King h6. He goes here. King h5. King h4. Thank you for that. We win the pawn, and now we have a fantastic pass pawn. Fantastic, and now our king is very active as well. So he decided to get active. I said, give me the pawn. Now I want to take that pawn. And now we want to check him and push that king away. How are we going to push that king away, guys? Yes?
you have like knight d7 or
I don't want a defense. Remember, no defense, okay?
I would do knight g4.
Always be active. And now we want to take the f2 pawn with the king. Still leave the knight there, okay? Because you want to attack this guy with a knight. Now he goes here, attacking f7. And that's something you want to be a little bit careful. There are many ways to win here, but you still want to be careful. Okay? Yes?
They're
You can, but then, it's probably good, but what else you can do? How about we just don't allow him to take the pawn? Yes?
Well, you could do like F5.
That's what I did.
Bishop and then
Because now I'm going to take here on E3. So if you take this, I'm going to take with this, attack the bishop. Bishop moves. I'm going to come here. I say, give me that. Check. And 3 pawns, I believe, is enough to win this game, 3 connected pass pawns should be enough for a victory. So I went there. Now he goes here, E4. And now, yes.
well, you can push your H pawn, but you can also take bishop takes and then queen E3.
Well, we can, you're right. But I just went here first. I say, give me the bishop. If bishop moves again, I just want to go here and threaten to take this. If he takes, I take back with this and I pick up this pawn. If he goes here, I take, I go knight g4, I pick up this guy. Got it? He decided to play this. I simply took. He took here because if he goes here, my idea was to go here. If he goes here, I put the knight here. Oops, sorry about that. I take. And again, 3 pass pawns going to decide the outcome of this game. So he decided to give up the bishop he does. And the last efforts here, last ditch efforts here. And what is the move that is going to force that resignation here, okay? What is the move that is going to force the resignation? Gary.
Sorry, knight D4 check.
There you go. Critical move, okay? Check. And he resigned because if he goes here, thank you very much. Up a piece. So actually, I want to tell you guys, this is the highest ranked player I beat on chess.com. MVL, almost 3,300. There are only like 2 more guys higher than him. It's Hikaru and Magnus. So MVL is 3rd, pretty much. Yeah. So he's the highest. If you look at my account, I've been playing a lot on chess.com. This is how I try to stay in shape. A lot of blitz games. I'm trying to get to 3,100 right now. I'm around 3,050, my rating. So again, he is almost 3,300. So he is among the top 5, up and down, around the top 5 blitz players on the chess.com. So very happy with this game. I have another game that I will show you maybe next time. Okay, so make sure you tune in next week for the same class. I'll be here next week. And there are a couple of really other big names, big victories against some other very top 10 players. Let's now see if you have any questions at the end. Yes?
What's the highest rated player you beat? Like,
I think it's him. 3276. I think it's him. If you go to my profile, Akobian, STL, you'll see it shows the highest player you beat. I think it's him. I played Magnus. I wasn't able to win against him. Very close game. Hikaru also, I haven't had a chance to win, but I think he is my highest rated player that I have won. Yeah. Okay. So you understand, right? The key about this game was it started off symmetrical, but right around here, it seems that out of nowhere, I play queen d8 and problems, right? Normally, you would think, how can you win a symmetrical position against top player like this, right? But even in a simple symmetrical positions, there are ways that you can try to improve your position, and possibly your opponent might not play the best way, play suboptimal moves, and you get a chance. Yes, if we get the bishops off the board here, and trade, it's going to be hard to win. But the fact that I could get this is very important. How many of you would play the move bishop f3? Would this be a pretty straightforward decision for you during your games? Was this something you would just give up the bishop, or sometimes you would think, oh, bishops are more valuable, sometimes you have a move like this, but it's not very good. It depends. It's not always good. Here it's good because the configuration of the queen and knight versus bishop and knight is advantageous here for black. That's something you should know. When you're trying to attack, the queen and knight, they work stronger together. Okay? And now the king has been a little bit weak. Yes? Question? Yeah.
What makes a position symmetrical?
Symmetrical is this. You see the pawn structure? He's got 4, you got 4. He got 2, you got 2, right?
Oh, so it's when the pawns
Yeah.
are on the same.
Yeah. So it's basically very similar, yeah? It could be like more close, but again, it's very symmetrical. But now what we do is we break the symmetry. And now I want to ask you about pawn islands. Do you guys know about pawn islands? What pawn islands are?
Yeah.
How many pawn islands I have, Gary?
You have 2,
How many he has?
3.
3. What does that mean? Do you guys know what is that? What does that mean when opponent has more pawn islands? What does that automatically transfer into? Gary?
If your opponent has more pawn islands, they have a worse pawn structure.
And more weaknesses, right? Basically, worse pawn structure will turn into weaknesses. So everybody should remember that. More pawn island means more weaknesses. So remember that, okay? So that's the key for you to remember from this game. Very glad to win this game with the black pieces. Again, it was not easy. The structure is still very, very solid here. But I think right around here, when I pin him, this pin became very annoying for him, and he started to push the pawns. Position is very difficult to play for him. I'm not sure there's a big advantage for him, but again, maybe he could play a3, maybe he can wait a little bit and try to exchange rook. But I think I have very good chances here. Yes?
Why don't we just move our king?
Huh?
Why don't we just move our king?
Like we're here?
Yeah, why not?
Yeah, well, we can, but well, things happen pretty quickly here, right? So we attack. That's why we don't do that. But let's say if he plays here, I actually absolutely agree. Maybe we can move this, and so we can move the knight. But it's right now hanging, so it's not easy, you know. So I think something like a3 might have offered him a little bit better chances. My plan was to go here, honestly, just to keep an eye on this, and just see, and kind of pass the turn. I say, okay, what's your next move? I got plenty of moves, but what is your next move? Maybe I can even play a5, you know, a little bit weaken this side of the board. Just a little bit. Just a little bit, just to see what is opponent going to do. But luckily, it became straightforward. And now again, this is another moment I want to slightly pause and give you the idea, guys. Pawn weaknesses. Unprotected pawns. He has a lot of unprotected pawns here, right? And the way we win the pawn here, we just simply do a double attack. When you attack 2 pawns with the queen, it's a very good chance, very good likelihood that you're going to win the material. And that's why you start out with the move queen d5. Queen, David 5, attacking the pawns and winning the material.
You also had pawn e5 and pawn e4 too.
Yeah, well, if he goes here, my plan was just to capture this guy. I actually really like capturing the a pawn because that gives him the pass pawn. So that's probably the first thing I would like to accomplish in this position, get the pass pawn rolling in. Like in the game, you remember, if I was inaccurate and played some other slow move, he plays this. And it's going to be very hard to win this because how are you going to create a pass pawn now? Your pawn is fixed. And when your pawns are fixed, it's not easy. Okay? Yes?
So, I know this is like a fast game, but what point in the game did you realize that you had the advantage?
Oh, here I know I had the advantage here. Here I know I have the advantage. But again, there are many times I have an advantage. Sometimes even winning advantage against very top players, but it's just I end up not being able to win. Having an advantage, again, doesn't guarantee you that you're winning the game. Okay? You still have to kind of put the ball into the net. And a lot of times, that's the hardest part, you know? That's sometimes you'll be surprised. Getting the advantage, sometimes it's not as difficult, but actually winning the game against, when they're defending, you know, like very tenaciously is very hard. So that's what I'm working on, still trying to improve every day when I play. Not often you play those top players I usually get to play when I play in a tournament. Like if I play title Tuesday or Thursdays, there's another tournament now, then I have a chance to play them, because if they're playing, there is some prize money involved. So it's the pairings are, you know, casually it's hard to play the very top players sometimes, unless your rating is super high. All right, guys. Yeah, so we talk about islands. You realize by just creating some pawn weaknesses, you can actually end up having what's called a long-term advantage, okay? And then you pick up. Once I hit this position, here I felt very comfortable about winning, because I just had a very straight pawn. And then when I did this, I discovered this. I was very glad to see the king idea. And this is kind of a rare idea. Sometimes you don't see this. And this idea works because this pawn structure is shuttered. If this pawn was here, this position would have been a draw. I don't have an entry square. So this is very rare you have this. But again, if this pawn is on g2, this position is most likely a draw, because I don't have an entry point. Of course, if the pawns were differently, I would have not exchanged queens. But I realized once I exchanged that this, I knew that this is just 100% winning, because my pawn is simply going in and pick up the pawn. And then I have that beautiful h pawn that is ready to start the march to the victory. And again, even here, don't play passive. If you play knight d7, he plays king d6. You're giving chances. Always active. Always choose activity over a passive move. Activity, yes?
If your knight was on f6, could you still have played h5 right here?
I can, but do you want to put a knight on the rim?
I mean, like,
Not too often, right? It's winning probably still. It's almost hard not to find a move that is not winning here. But again, this is just better. Keep that h file open, okay? And plus, your knight is attacking the pawns now. And again, win the game. All right, guys, so that's the end of the game. Once again, for you, the very nice fork at the end that established our victory here. Thank you, everybody, for joining the lecture tonight. And we'll see you again next week for the same lecture. Okay.
Hello everyone, I'm Grandmaster Denes Boros, and we're going to discuss a fun little topic tonight. And this topic is winning on demand. Winning on demand, and that's probably the toughest one among the players. They hate it. They also kind of find some excitement in that. Now, what's fascinating in it, I have to mention, is that Grishchuk, who is a big time trouble addict, so he likes to spend his time and then get into huge time trouble, and then plays on increments literally, most of the tournaments and even recent ones. I actually don't recall him getting in situations where he had to win on demand. Now, chess is a tricky world because that could mean two things. It could mean he's so good he never needed to win on demand, or the opposite, obviously. These are the two options. But it's very interesting to me that he never really got into, or I don't remember a situation where he had to. Now, we're kind of on that topic, and I do want to segue a little bit in toxicity in chess, because I think these high emotional stakes get the worst out of people, and that's, I think, how it kind of relates here. And what I'd say is winning on demand is tough, but is an essential element in general. Because whenever people try to become a grandmaster, an international master, you have to make norms. You have an X amount of points you need to get, and sometimes it's on the razor's edge. You need to score 1.5 out of 2, so it's what it is. Now, the other thing that I wanted to say, though, and that might actually help clarify what I mean, why Grischuk might not need this. It might be because of the tension he brings into his games. So he plays the game so there is a constant pressure going on. Now that pressure cooker might accidentally, or not so accidentally, cook the opponent instead of him. Because he's always in pressure of time, and the opponents feel like, well, I got to play on his time now. Therefore, he might actually win a lot of games before he's actually forced to win games. So he's actually putting a lot of pressure early. Now, people are not talking in the chat about this total thing, this total tournament. I don't know if it's going to be a total success or total failure, but one of them for sure. Have any of you heard of this new attempt for a tournament called Total something? I can't quite. Total Chess, yeah?
Total Chess World Championship.
Yes. Well, it's still like beta testing the tournament. I wouldn't really call it like a real one. They, in fact, call it like an experimental version. It was also a little bit strange, to be honest with you, because they had qualifiers, and accidentally the young kids are left out of that tournament. There are a couple of them, but most of these things are based on ratings and the Rapid and Blitz. So there are obviously some legit ones, but also plenty of young and talented kids, including Erigaisi, conspicuously missing from the field. So it really honestly feels more like a closed event than an event where you can qualify into. And honestly, I feel one of the things that we are missing in the chess world is the opportunity to qualify and get to play other players and top players. And especially with these young 20-somethings and early 30s, they definitely would need the experience, including Aravind, Murzin, and in some sense Erigaisi too. There's a lot of potential in them, but if they never get the chance to play the big guys. So I don't actually favor these closed events or closed events that are open in name only. And the reason why I don't favor them is that the best tournaments are those where you actually get some fresh blood flowing and some excitement. Chad's been like completely preoccupied with things being boring, but talking about and coming back to our main topic, not everything's boring and you can spice it up, especially in situations that are dire. You have to win. In fact, this first game, Lputian versus Tukmakov, both of them are legendary players, but Tukmakov was very strong and finished second behind Karpov in one of the championships, meaning Soviet championships. Lputian is also a very strong Armenian grandmaster. Now, this was played in a KO event. KO events are interesting, and you'll see why. But on the other hand, they're also fairly unfair, and they're very punishing. So talking about being punishing, Tukmakov lost the first game with white, therefore he has to win with black. So before I get into my spiel, what do you guys think? What do you all think online? What would you do if you must win with black? Yes, sir?
French.
French? Well, I've got bad news for you. White is not going to play one. E4. Yes, go ahead.
My own opening.
Bro.
Your own opening. Very surprising. They might not expect all your games to be exactly the same when you play in a knockout event. Very clever. Okay, so we've got the Banco, we've got the Kid, we've got the Dutch or some advertisement, I don't know. So, Kid for the 80s? Eh.
What about the King's Indian?
Kid is actually like the shortened version of the King's Indian, yeah.
I would look at my opponent's games and see what they scored worse than.
Okay, so you check the opponent, see what they scored. Where's that? Okay. Now, one of the things, and the most interesting part of this, and like this gets incredibly psychological, everyone gets affected. So, even if you try to pretend that this is going to be a normal game, this is not going to be a normal game. Because your opponent also understands the weight of them being in an incredibly good position, of playing the white pieces and also just only needing a draw. Therefore, for example, I've even seen a Hikaru game where he was playing white, and there's actually almost like 0.01% that doesn't give bishop b5 check in this position when they have the draw odds. Which is actually fascinating of how little people can restrain themselves from the excitement. When it could actually still be that d4 is a better choice. In fact, I told this to Nakamura on one of the streams. He played bishop b5 and got into trouble. But I said, well, why don't you just go d4 and then just go bishop g5? And one of the interesting things here is that, like, and it's somewhat paradoxical, is that, well, this is a very sharp opening. Yes, that is true. Well, which can lead to the poisoned pawn. But it also kind of gets into a situation where black will have to walk a thin line to stay alive, and oftentimes it boils into something very evenish or drawish. Black, in some sense, will be obliged to do something out of ordinary or something second rate to keep the game going. So in that sense, going for bishop g5 paradoxically is not completely a bad decision for white. It at first blink makes no sense. Why are you taking the complications? But this is sort of like a game of chicken, and they will have to blink. I mean, otherwise they just lose out. And I do remember that I think he actually tried it. He did try to play this way. If I remember correctly, was quite successful. Okay. But, surprise, surprise, white went d4. So no more stuff like that. Yes, go ahead.
Still E6.
I mean, okay, so even if you go pawn e6, you can't quite will your opponent into the French. They can still just say no. Okay, that's not the right no. This kind of no.
E6?
Okay, b6 is still not a French. But you could try to get something, but you do give away a lot of the center. Yes, go ahead.
This is where I play my customized opening.
Mm.
Not b6, I play c6.
Yeah, I mean, it is a line and can get sharp, but white does get a huge center. I would go as far as this being somewhat on the suspicious side. Now, I'm not actually saying that suspicious is necessarily off the table. So black actually went c5, d5, and played the move Yasser will remember, and fondly. Here black plays a move that is very rarely played, if ever. b5 is not like you are actually missing this and get the Banco stuff going. You can't quite do the same thing without the knight there because white is going to go e4. And that actually is a hint. White is going to go e4, and Tukmakov is like, no, no e4. You're a bit late for the Blumenfeld. And also it's very risky. You give up a pawn, and I'm not sure you're going to see it back. f5, yes. Now there's a reason I mentioned Yasser. Yasser actually faced this against Mamedyarov and won a beautiful game, which is a topic for a later occasion. But this one is an interesting choice for the situation where he has to win the game. Now, f5 is risky. But why do we think f5 is somewhat on the sketchy side? Why is this somewhat not perfect? Imperfect, to say the least. e4 is a pawn sacrifice, but why would e4 really come as an idea? Yeah, exactly, and many issues in the Death Valley of chess. That's correct. Prophylaxis, that's correct. Dutch, any other openings, whenever that diagonal opens up, your king is exposed. But e4 is a difficult move to make when you're up a whole point. You only need a draw. Why would you give away a pawn and then just hope that everything's going to go well? So white actually refuses to do that. But so this is kind of that thing where you could kind of tell how tournament situations affect the player. They might even know this is the move you must play, but they just refuse to do so on the principle that they're too scared, or we assume they just don't want to give up the pawn. Why risk it? However, black's play is not completely nonsense. White moved the pawn deep inside, but it doesn't really have a lot of support. And yes, you have a pawn here, but I do control the e4 square. And what's even more important is that controlling squares matter most. You don't actually have to have the pawn in there. So in some sense, from the strategical perspective, the situation is unbalanced and things are happening. So that did not happen. Knight c3 happened. Knight f6, bishop g5, queen b6. Black does not want to ruin their structure, which is quite important because if that gets jumbled up, it's very easy just to lock up the position. So takes, queen takes naturally, e3. Okay, so you look at this position, and you still kind of have to decide whether you're going to see a lot of direct contact and fighting or a slower game. What do you guys think? Which one are we going to witness? Hmm?
I say indirect.
Everything's going to be indirect. That's absolutely correct. Now, if things are going to get indirect, it means you kind of want to go for crucial and critical squares. So you've got a lot of time to maneuver around, and you absolutely should. So at first glance, we could mention e4 as like a critical square, but that is kind of out of reach, especially for our knight, because the pawn is in the way, the queen's in the way. So you can maneuver, but I would say that proper maneuvering is like 3 moves. 5 moves is still a lot of moves, even in a close position. You can, but they might actually open up the position on you. You could also go g6. Sure. Now, but if I explicitly mentioned key squares, what other key square we might find apart from e4? d4? Well, d4 unfortunately is occupied by white, so it's not actually going to be easy to get there. Like, we might get there later in the long run, but something that's not even contested at the moment. e5, of course, very good. This square on e5. Now, chess is a tricky game. If you go pawn e5, you accomplish your goal of occupying the e5 square. However, you open up everything. Also, they go en passant. You must take, you cannot give white this square. And everyone's favorite check, and we trade everything off, and white wins, and we lose the match. So e5 is a sound idea. Unfortunately, they trade us. But that actually shouldn't really make you feel that, oh, then the idea is off the table. That actually should encourage you to look further. It should actually be helping you, nudge you in the direction, okay, I can't use the pawn, but is there something else I could do and use in this position instead of it? Well, queen is the option, but remember, you've got time. You've got time to move around. Yeah, go ahead.
We don't like everyone's favorite check, so how about we go a6?
You could go a6. Now, I'm a little bit over dramatizing. You can go a6, but let's say I go a4. I'm more curious about your plan. a6 is fine, and a lot of the times, yeah, go ahead, sorry. I'm listening, actually. Yes?
Then we could go e5 now without the worries of him trading absolutely everything.
Okay. Okay. All right, that's smart. You could do that. However, we're going to get a little bit even more conservative. So you don't even want a trade of pawns, if possible. But all that said, I do like your idea, and then actually makes a lot of sense. So we want to occupy that square, but with a piece. D6 and get the knight there. Now Tukmakov does this without playing a6, and I will explain. I know that the big question is, but bishop b5 check. And that's obviously a relevant question, but I'll answer. Knight d7, knight e5, you get the knight to e5. And notice that this is exactly 3 moves, lucky numbers. That's just enough time that it's not too long. And it is still taking some time. Now he does g6, but even with d6, if check, king f7 at first blink looks incredibly ridiculous, but in reality is incredibly logical. If this was obviously a Sicilian, we'd think you've gone mad walking around with your king like that. But this is not a Sicilian. This is sort of like a Dutch Benoni hybrid. So sort of a hybrid system. And there's no way you can get to my king because the position's locked up. And you don't really have a knight to jump around and harass the king. And even if you do, I can just move it away. And the funny thing is, the one piece that looks ridiculous here is the bishop on b5, because the only thing it did, it was just a check. That's it. And now we can do your a6, just chasing it away, or even just completely ignoring it, if we feel like it. And also note that white is not much ahead with their pieces. There's plenty of them still in the garage, with the rook on h1 and knight on g1. And a bishop on b5 doesn't really do much. Yeah, that is a nice little king walk there. So he goes g6 first, bishop c4, d6. Now, I've seen moves like this, and just like movies, mixed reviews for this bishop move. And I'd say it is more reasonable than it looks. And I do think that it is okay to say mixed reviews because your bishop is sort of cornered and is just staring at the wall. However, you double, triple, quadruple defend the pawn on d5, and defending your stuff is never really a huge mistake. On the other hand, it's not the happiest spot for the bishop. Yeah. Yeah, but it's not a bad idea. There is always some sense in overprotecting. Talking about movie reviews, I have to say I've been kind of upset with one of my friends. He's like, oh, like he has this Leo DiCaprio mindset. Is like, it has to be a recent movie, otherwise this can't be good. And it's like, dude, even from 2020 to 2025, it doesn't compete with A Godfather, Once Upon a Time in the West, or let's say No Country for Old Men, and they're not recent movies. So it's not all about when it was made, whether it is quality. So in some sense it relates to chess too. Yeah, white already has a couple of pieces out there, but it doesn't make them good. So black is behind and is responding to all these ideas of white, but that's an advantage because we already can decide that when we jump to e5, it makes already way more sense because it's going to hit the bishop on c4, right? You wouldn't even necessarily go there if the bishop is not on c4. So sometimes the older the better. So d6, knight e2, knight d7, case in point, knight is incoming. Knight f4, knight e5, queen e2. This you ignore. Because one thing that I didn't talk about long enough, but I should have, even if white ever gets that knight to e6, you just take it. Like, okay, I'm just going to make a different move. Yeah, just to show it. You always capture. In this case, you can already win the pawn. But sometimes you can even ignore it. And this bishop just doesn't have a way to attack your king. This is like a typical Dutch setup. And the whole point is, just like in French defense positions, the bishop doesn't have a goal. It just exists. And that's actually one of those things you want to accomplish. Now, this is like high strategical mastery, when you actually can give your opponent a bishop that doesn't have any targets, compared to ours, which clearly hits a target. It's all opened up, and you might even open up even more with f4, d5, d4. So in some sense, black has the more opportunities. Okay, so knight f4, knight e5, queen e2. And again, black's next move is pretty cool. Black is not winning this position, and shouldn't be, because it's the middle game. Should never feel game is over if there's still a bunch of pieces on the board. There will be a lot of changes. In fact, one of the downside of Grishchuk's chess, and I do have to mention that because I guess it relates, is that even if you figure out a position with that little time, it can transform into a third type of position, and you already have no time to figure that out. Therefore, it's not necessarily the best way of playing chess. However, we've got time here. You got lucky, dear Chatterino. And our big question is, how should we deal with our own bishops? Lucky us might already kind of chose where they're going to station their pieces. Someone's asking if it's me. It is me. Yes, it's Denes. Yeah, go ahead.
Are we interested in going a6, preparing for b5, and then going bishop e7?
A6 is interesting. However, I'm concerned with your development. I don't mind a6, but whenever you start pushing pawns, you have to mind your development a lot. I usually prefer to do that first and then go with a6, b5. Used to watch my streams? Well, technically this is also a stream, right, Ben?
Well, yes, we're live.
We are live.
I can't believe it.
You can't believe it? Well, me neither. But yeah, so what we're trying to figure out is how to position them bishops. I look like MVL. That's incorrect. MVL looks like me. Bad move ordering. Really? Giving up on any of the bishop moves?
I'm stumped.
Really? I mean, you literally have about 4 legal moves.
I was fixed on the a6, b5.
Okay, so I'm going to help you. So you're fixed on a6. I will stop you from making the b5 move. Then what are you going to do? All right. We're getting somewhere. All right. Where is that white bishop going? First, we got to worry with our own bishops. No white bishop slender till then. Bishop d7. Yeah, but so if we go bishop d7 now, we probably are going to face what some people call doom. Because now we can't trade this bishop for the knight. And now this knight is an octopus. And that's going to be painful. Now you could do it with a6, a4, bishop d7 for sure. Now, yeah, bishop h6, and was played by Tukmakov. Very, very good move. Yes?
I thought we didn't want to trade pieces.
We're not going to trade it. We're threatening it. I know, that's actually one of the confusing things about chess, is that we are not necessarily trade something, we're threatening it. So the threat is greater than the execution. I'm pretty sure they hit you with this one a million times. No? Yeah, good.
If he castles queenside per se, wouldn't we just swipe the knight off the board?
So the thing is that you will trade when you feel it is the right time. You don't have to do it immediately, especially because it's a close position. Does that answer you?
I mean, I feel like the knight didn't have much going for it in the meantime.
Yeah, but so one of the reasons Tukmakov puts the bishop there is more of keeping white in check of what they're doing than actually threatening to take the knight. For example, if white goes something like knight e6, takes, I mean, I don't even need to take, but I could take. Yeah, maybe, yeah. Yeah, we want to avoid those forks. Yeah, you can also just ignore it. And this actually is way smarter, because here I can take, and do win the pawn. It's a great point by Nick. If you put the bishop here, I can actually trade your bishop off. And so what really you want to do in the position, and this again comes back to the winning on demand stuff. He's actually playing better moves. He is forced to play better moves than just your average bishop g7, because there could be more trades. They trade off everything, he can't win the game. So bishop h6 keeps more pieces on the board. Yes?
Is our goal also to castle next move, or are we still fixed on our white square position?
No, we can castle. No, castling is fine. You don't have to do things. You do whatever, seems correct to you. And I actually agree with you. Castling is what should be played first, so you don't run into this idea. And I'm not don't misunderstand me. You could have played a6 earlier. I don't claim a6 is any shape or form inferior to bishop h6. If anyone is judgmental, those are computers, and also they don't want to judge you, they're just forced to. It's just the nature of the game. So h4, castles, we're not going to get mated. They don't have a dark squared bishop. So h4 is more of guarding the g5 square, so we can't just push. And you really don't want to push it. You don't really want to push that, because it doesn't improve your position much, and there will be a lot of issues for you. So you just want to sort of start focusing on the other side. So now he takes the other bishop, b6, g3, a6. So we could sort of transpose to what you wanted. Very close to that. And the reason why Tukmakov waited, he kind of wanted to see White's plan. Then he went pawn a2 to a4. He was like, snap, I take your bishop before the bishop runs away. He takes b6, a6. And I would definitely say that Black accomplished his goal. He was like, okay, I want a game where it's not like an immediate draw. You can't trade everything off. And it's very dynamic. Black has a pair of bishops. Black has a pair of knights. So if you care about the principles of chess, you rightfully would tell me, hey man, it's a close position. They got a pair of knights. It's just like a pair of bishops in open positions. But I'm very sorry to disappoint you. Nothing is like a pair of bishops. A pair of bishops are like a pair of bishops. Maybe a pair of aces, but it's a different game. Yeah? Okay, so you might be wondering, okay, this doesn't make sense what you're saying here, and I can empathize with you. But the reason the bishop pair is so good, that eventually, for one reason, they work very well together, and the game might just open up eventually. So they kind of have like a potential for the later part of the game. Why would White, yes, good.
I know we don't want to trade, but I really want to do e5.
Yeah, so the thing is, we kind of need to have a little bit of a read on the position first. So, and especially with close positions, understanding of what's happening is way more important than just getting into action immediately. But Eski did ask a question, and I do want to respond to that. Why would White play for a draw from the start? Human? The humans have emotions? I'm sorry, I don't know. That's just the way it goes. Humans sometimes can't help it. Now, this wasn't just a knockout event. There was obviously prestige, glory, lots of bags filled with goods if they win. So it wasn't like they were just playing for fun. There also was a lot of things online, so it was like on the line here, and they wanted to get that money, to put it plain and simple. And if you don't win it, then you don't win it. So like, there's a lot of tension. It's not just an online game where you will spam 15 more until, the cheaters outnumber you. So, but coming back to your question, let's kind of talk about the game and mostly the pawn structure of it all. And I think it's kind of crucial here. What sort of weaknesses stand out in White's position? Yes?
If we go b5, he cannot take a spam with his pawn because that meat is wrong.
There's some tactical tricks looming in the air, that's correct. But that's a bit of the dynamic part of what you're looking for there. And I'm looking more of the static, unmoving parts.
The d5 pawn is artificially isolated.
Yes, this d5 pawn is an unofficial weakness and unofficially isolated. I like that term. Thank you, Nick.
The keys can be trouble all game.
Yes, the king, actually, all those light squares are loose for White. So that's an issue that White might be facing, not now, not in 2 moves, not in 3 moves, in a lot of moves. The other thing, so let's say if we're going to entertain the idea of e5. First of all, we would be trading off their not so good pawn. Second of all, apart from this knight being semi-useful of controlling a square, which we would always capture, and that's, again, kind of ties back with the idea, trade off your opponent's best piece if they go there. But is this other knight doing anything less here? Does that other knight on c3 have a goal to reach? No, it's completely useless, right? Now, if you actually, we're going to entertain your ideas, like let's say takes, just so we can go e5, or whatever, like it doesn't, the move order doesn't really matter that much. e5 takes, takes. Now you suddenly gave this knight a potential place to go to. To be fair, you can win a pawn, but notice that I might even consider sacrificing the pawn, because his pieces sort of come alive that weren't really participating much or being useful at all. Yes?
Yeah, it's when,
Or just here.
when he goes knight there,
Uh-huh.
then we'll eat his pawn, but then he'll move his knight on to c7 check. We move our king, and all of a sudden we lost the bishop. But
Well, actually, like, I know what you're trying to say, but here, actually, you're still winning with king f7.
yes, because we have to focus on the rook.
I mean, you hit the queen, the knight. It's a classic triple attack, so we're just going to win that one. But the thing is that, like, your idea is not wrong. The timing is a bit early. So if you would be a little bit more patient, as you'll see from Tukmakov, he's going to capitalize it later on when the time is right and the price is right. So a6, castles, bishop d7, knight e6. He doesn't even take because he's not forced to. Rook b1, king f7, knight f4, rook b7, and now anytime and later on, black could go and play pawn b5, and it probably is a good move, but you sort of have to kind of understand that there's still a little bit of bargaining going on of, do I want to show my cards this early, showing that b5 is my intention? Because white is sort of running out of intelligent moves. By intelligent moves, I mean white goes rook b1. If you go back, your computer is just going to say, what are you looking at? What is this death stare from you? But us humans, we have this emotion called shame, and we like to see that our moves make sense. And if they don't, we just feel funny. So in that sense, rook b7 is the sort of move that improves your position and doesn't give your opponent a plan while you're doing your own. And chess is part of playing on the chessboard and playing on these dynamics that is sort of outside the chessboard and the psychology of the two players. And that's actually one of the reasons why you don't want to hyper-focus on computers a lot of the times, because they don't get this. It's not in the it's not baked in that that's an important info, that you're not going to show stuff. Which is actually interesting. Like in many other, like I mentioned, card games, even card games, they just stick with like numbers of the probability of this happening, but they never really play with the psychology of like, well, maybe this is like a better strategy from it's a smarter move from a human perspective, because You're kind of psyching out your opponent. And that's what Tukmakov is doing. He's psyching out white. So queen d3, you know, it's already kind of like a knee-jerk reaction. Bishop g7, rook c8, really just shuffling. Kind of like everyday shuffling. Like, I'm not going to give much commentary to this because they don't change much. Gonna sort of get there, and now suddenly things are happening. Black decides to sort of hint at the idea of g5, and maybe he goes for an attack. White immediately says, no go, no thank you. And it's actually a very good move. Anticipating your opponent's play is never a bad idea. And here, Tukmakov does somewhat of a speculative decision, but a good one. He needs to win, and he spotted that he can win a pawn soon, and he does. And the bishop takes c3, bishop takes a4. And now we get a situation where the table sort of turns, and this happens way more often than mentioned. The one who's trying to make a draw is forced to be the more combative player. And more often than not, or at least a lot of the time, people don't actually feel comfortable changing. So this is where the hunter gets hunted type of situation. They ought to be hunting now, but he's not ready. He thought that he's just going to defend successfully, and that's it. So if you're the hunter, dear viewer, and everyone over here, what do you think is the most appropriate way of going aggro for white? I mean, it's white to move. That's kind of sort of what I mean, that white needs to do something even though they don't expect to be doing anything. Hello. Hello there, chat. E4, and that would have been the better move. So actually very natural. And, this immediately would kind of wrong foot black, because if you have to go back like this, that can't be that great. And e4 will set up h5 ideas, maybe even e5. I would assume, well, tensions are running high at this moment. Like, they're not hours in. And I kind of, e4 feels natural to me as well. And there's actually a thing to say about this. Natural moves are usually pretty good in a normal position. But Lputian becomes very creative with g4. But g4 is definitely what Tukmakov is looking forward to, because they're opening everything in front of that king, which, is a good sign. Bishop b5, indeed, chasing the queen away, taking on g4 and king h7. And even though, you've got this structure, but your king is sort of getting very breezy over here. That's why I would prefer e4 too, just so you keep your structure. Rook h3, rook g8, knight e6, queen f5. And probably the idea that Lputian missed, we hit the queen, we hit the pawn, and we're also up a pawn. So suddenly things are collapsing for white. Takes, king f3. And I do ask, how would you, people, try to strengthen our position? Yes, go ahead. F1? Yeah, I go rook g3. So yeah, bishop f1 is very aggressive, but maybe you could still improve your position a little bit before you do that. Yeah, rook g4, rook g1. I like either of them. Rook g4, very good. Was in fact played. And you're just involving the other rook. And that's kind of the joy of like these close positions. Bishop d7 is also fine. Is that you don't need to rush. You've got the time. Knight f4, yes.
Are we still interested in trading? Not interested in trading as in it would ruin
No, we'd love to trade as black.
because
We're ahead, yes.
yeah.
Now, and so we're interested because we're ahead, and we're interested because the structure. So that's why actually sort of the skeleton of the game, the pawn structure, is so critical. There are cases when you are favored just by the fact that the pawn on d5 is isolated, and it's an easy target. Like even like they mentioned the French earlier, and people were mentioning the French. Pawn structures there for black are often better, and that's why they kind of like the endings there. Yes?
I like how we got our rook on g4
Uh-huh.
because now we involve our a8 rook.
Uh-huh.
Also, we're pinning his rook to the h file so that otherwise we win as well.
Yeah.
Now we have support on getting our bishop to c4 in order to
Mm-hmm.
get this pawn there.
Mm-hmm.
The king has no flight squares.
Yeah.
He tries to push the pawns from neutral.
Yeah. I mean, they still be able to go knight f4, and I think it'll happen too. But yeah, these moves are very strong, especially because they restrict the opponent. And that's an incredibly important way of playing chess. You can restrict the play. That's probably a better move in a position. Still have to look for tricks and traps, because sometimes people like enticing you to a good-looking move that just loses to a trick. Never trust your opponents. They don't want you to win. So bishop d7, a5. Very nice, methodical, making sure the square is covered. c4, king g7. We've got time. We don't mind trades anymore. e5. It's a beautiful little geometrical idea. Yes, go ahead. Yeah. Bishop c6. You take this pawn. So this, like, there is a saying, if you put your pieces on a good square, they're going to be grateful. If your rook wasn't on g4, this whole idea of rook takes c4 wouldn't work. And now, practically, the whole position collapses because we also win the e-pawn. We take this. Can't really take that one because of rook b4, and I pick this. And then you also run into that. Yes, go ahead.
What happened to h4? How come we don't take it?
Well, because you first eliminate those tricks. Like you first kind of get rid of the dangerous pawns. These side pawns, they don't actually worth that much. In this case, yeah, go ahead.
Then why did he move his king? Why did he force us?
Well, it's a check.
Yeah, can we go back?
Uh-huh.
Okay. Forward one, twice, please. Now why did he check us? It's
But there's also knight
he
f6.
moved his king.
It's pinned.
Oh. Okay.
Yeah, so it's a pin. These guys are good. They're not going to fall for knight f6 check. I promise you that. So rook takes e6. And by the way, just a side note, as the game and the lecture is sort of winding down, as black is on the verge of winning and is going to win very soon. There is one thing, and that's something to look up. I'm not sure if there's like a database on it, but the value of a center pawn and a value of a rook pawn is not the same. So as far as I know, it's like this center pawn is worth like 1.1. This one is worth like 0.4, 5. Not quite sure exactly, but I've seen some databases talk about this. So this is really my homework to all of you, everyone here in person and everyone watching and on YouTube. This is your homework. I want this in the comments section, giving me all the details. Peer-reviewed articles only. Okay, I'm kidding. But, you know, respectable sites, people, respectable sites. But there is definitely, I've seen some material that deals with like the side pawns are not actually equal to pawns in the middle. So you want to win them, obviously. They become stronger when they become a passed pawn. But otherwise, they're not as high value. Yes?
So are you suggesting that later we're trying to get a C2? If he cannot move his rook back because then we traded it with the dice rule and move his king, then he eat his B2 pawn instead of taking the H4.
Yeah, so if you take the B pawn, I mean, even, you know, I'm just going to entertain what you're saying. So let's say check, here it takes. Can't go here because you lose the piece. Here it takes. Even if you just look at it, look at these swarm of pawns, there is no competition there anymore. So they're just going to start rolling and it's unstoppable. Now, if you win this pawn, these pawns are not unstoppable anymore. It'll take time till you trade it or somehow get rid of that pawn. And this H pawn, it's kind of like an iffy situation. Yes, technically, it's your passed pawn, but it's also sheltering your king. So you may want to think about it twice, especially with the knight jumping around, if you want to push it that much further, because your king is going to get much weaker. So it'll be a completely different thing. Like if my king would be on the other side of the board, this pawn might be more valuable. So it does depend on the situation. In this specific situation, winning a pawn here is a million times more valuable than the other one. But if it's a passed pawn, like, you know, we're actually not picky when it comes to free pawns. We take the lowest of the low value H pawn or side pawn if we get the chance. But as far as I know, and even in this case, because we've got passers on that side and they're really, really strong and they're connected, it's actually more valuable. Does that answer your question?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. So let's see, the game did not last much longer. He did take the pawn. I told you. If he doesn't get a chance to win this one, then he's going to win the other one. It might not actually be necessarily a bad idea to take the knight if you feel threatened, but probably he just didn't want to have this f pawn in danger. And it's very easy to mess up in chess because white rooks are so strong, the black king would get in some danger, and it's not rook endings, it's very easy to actually mess up and turn into a draw. So he doesn't take it because the bishop is strong anyways. Knight f4, rook f6, king c3. Probably time ran out, but I mean, black is going to win a pawn, start pushing those pawns. In any case, white resigned, maybe a little prematurely, I'd say so. It's not like you should resign this early. I'm not quite sure. It could have been time too. So, but black is objectively winning. Black has a lot of pawns that he's going to be able to run down. The f2 is weak. The king is not ideal. So not every resignation is dubious. And so I'm going to say something controversial, which I don't do quite enough, so I apologize. Sometimes, especially with double rounds, like 2 games a day, if you're like losing and it's hopeless, your energy is not infinite. So if you know that you're going to, you're down a rook, you're down a piece, if there's like one last trick left, you want to try that one last trick. But it's not necessarily a smart idea to try to hold something that you're going to lose when you could have like 3 hours instead of 1 hour left for your next game. You don't have infinite energy. You might think so right now. Trust me, it's not infinite. You've watched any athletics, you know it's not infinite. Even them are gasping for oxygen. In any case, I really hope you enjoyed this lecture, and thank you for coming. Thank you.